Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have chosen the SCS City Sports Podcast, your destination for local sports news, be it high school, be it professional, or whether you just want to listen to us ramble on about professional wrestling or old Seinfeld quotes or crazy movies that we all like. Welcome to the SCS City Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance over at 2382 Battlefield Parkway. You can reach them at 706-866-8283. Also, the Chattanooga Flower Market, 8016 East Brainerd Road, 423-899-2440. Phil's Primetime Pizza down in beautiful Chickamauga, Georgia, 122 Gordon Street. That's 706-375-4448. Our good friend Greg Payne, host of Restricted to the Dugout with Greg Payne and the Payne Mortgage Team. You can reach them at 423-645-9404 for all of your mortgage needs. And finally, Choo Choo Barbecue, who make it possible for us to bring you the scoreboard on Friday nights. The Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga scoreboard. You can reach them at 12960 U.S. Highway 27 at 706-375-7675. And as Ringo Robb likes to say, you don't know Q until you know Choo Choo. We also want to say a special thank you to Matthew Mays and the good friends and members of Jupiter Coyote, one of our favorite bands, and they provide the music for the show. Those guys have always been great to us, and we hope you guys will reach out and try to check out their music as well. So sit back and relax and hold on, and we'll see where we get to.
Like a blessing or a curse.
And welcome to the October 19th, 2022 edition of Scenic City Sports Tonight. Scott, along with Rob and Russ, will be joining us here in just a minute or two. Let's just go ahead and talk about it right now.
You want to get that big orange story on out because you ain't had any time to speak. Everybody else has had their turn, and we're little late getting to the air.
I've spoken on Facebook.
Yeah, well, but nobody was listening to you there. We're talking about right now. You got a chance to gloat, and I got some things to say as well.
I'm not gonna gloat. It was funny. I got an orange Tennessee hoodie, and I wore it yesterday with my Tennessee hat, and I saw somebody, and they're like, how dare you wear that? I was like, I haven't taken it off since Saturday. But I was in Walmart, and a guy just all of a sudden walks up to me. And I'm like, boy, he's getting close. Does he know me or something? He just stopped. And he said, I'm a Georgia fan. I'm like, oh, God, this is going to go down right here, really? He goes, but you guys are going to the SEC championship game. And I said, hang on a second. I said, there's 5 more conference games before we can even start talking about stuff like that.
Yeah, we can't. I say we as if I'm on the team. Stump used to accuse us of that when we said we, but he said we all the time. So, in that respect, there's some games that will look like trap games to Tennessee now because you can't look over those opponents.
Oh yeah,
we know Georgia's looming out there, and they're going to have another performance like they did this past weekend. But you can't look over Kentucky.
No.
You can't look over Missouri. Missouri's played some SEC teams
Missouri
tough.
Almost beat Georgia. They were leading. They were leading until 4 minutes to go in that game.
So we can't overlook those people.
The next focus is UT Martin on Saturday.
That's right, and I hope they don't come out and have a little bit of a hangover there from a standpoint. I know it's not Bama that they're having to get up for, but go out there and execute the way you know how.
Well, we've had games in the past where we have overlooked a team
Absolutely.
like that and has bitten us on the butt. So get done with that one, then we'll worry about Kentucky, and then we'll see what happens the rest. But then as I'm leaving, an older gentleman was parked in the fire lane. I think he was waiting for his wife to come out, and he rolls down the window, and he goes, "Wear that with pride, son." And I said, "I have for 50 years, sir."
Well, those.
But it was great, and for everybody saying, oh, you stormed the field because you beat Alabama. Yeah, they did. But this was putting to rest 15 years, not just of not beating Alabama, of having to hear it from all the other fan bases, from the national media, who called us a bunch of clowns when we wouldn't hire Greg Schiano as coach, when we revolted when John Curry tried to sneak through hiring Greg Schiano as coach. And by the way, why hasn't nobody come calling for Greg Schiano to any type of job if he's such a great coach? This is about exercising those demons and getting back and being relevant again and not being the butt of jokes again.
Yeah, we fell on hard times while the Crimson Tide was hoisting trophies every late January, early February. So we understand that, and we haven't crowned ourselves national champions by no means right now. But that was a victory that was long coming. But you know what? If you paid attention to the way Bama had been playing a little bit helter-skelter lately, I almost thought there's a loss in them coming. Because they're stumbling through some wins.
You could tell that the Texas game.
Yeah.
Like, this team is flawed.
Yeah, they've got... And what I said that's different, really noticeably different about Bama from the days that Saban got there is, one, defensively, they don't choke people out anymore. Mm-mm. They don't make you say give before you get to the 50-yard line because you can't do anything with them. They give up points, they give up yards, just like all these other schools out there. Now, offensively, I will tell you this: had their quarterback not been able to play, we could win that game by 3 touchdowns based on the one they had standing on the sideline.
If Jahmyr Gibbs isn't playing,
Tennessee
would have won by about 5 touchdowns.
And I said,
Gibbs is amazing.
And it wouldn't have been nice if he'd have picked the Big Orange.
There was rumors that he was thinking about it.
Yeah, I believe he was.
And look, the penalty situation, we had 17, 18 penalties called against. Well, you know what? The officials
clean your act up then.
The officials missed calls for both teams.
Well, they had been having penalties.
Yeah, it wasn't just this week.
Yeah.
It wasn't just this week. Go back. They're one of the most penalized teams in the nation. And that's what's so surprising because usually Alabama is so disciplined under Nick Saban. And this year they're not.
Well, let me say this too. You know how many quality assistants he runs through because they go on to other jobs. Is it not just possibly possible that he's sitting in a situation that he doesn't have the assistants he once had?
Very possible.
And I'm not saying he don't have good ones, but he might not have those premier ones. And as a head coach, he can't run around and coach every position up.
Right.
So he's relying upon what he has out there. And I think sometimes you just maybe don't have at your disposal what you once had. Now, roster-wise, if they've been recruiting 5 stars all this time and Tennessee hadn't, you know that they had a better roster. But they didn't play like it.
No.
They didn't play like it.
No. Just because you have better players doesn't make you have a better team. And that's universal, any sport, not just college football or anything else. So anyway, it's over. It's done with. We're putting to bed, although I can't get Dixieland to light out of my head.
And I'm sure you knew people that were up there. I knew people that were up there, and they have given me similar stories and stories that are even bigger and stronger than what we could see on TV, but to echo what we saw on TV, that it was a almost a controlled chaos.
Yeah, it was a powder keg that the fuse finally got lit, and you know.
And I know you
weren't getting it back in the jar. After
that. And wherever you were watching the game, you might have uttered these words to whoever was there with you. I said, Tennessee pulls this off, this place is fixing to erupt.
We knew that before the game started, but I'll be honest with you. And I told somebody the other day, I watched about 2 minutes of the game total. Because every time it seems the last year and a half, Tennessee does good. Maybe I'm not watching it, and I'll flip it on. Other team starts doing good. It was 28-10.
Yeah.
And I was
and it looked like we were going to run them out of there, even though it was Bama.
And I get home, it's 28-10, and I get in there, I'm like, I'll get to see the end of the first half. Alabama scores. I'm like, nope. I can't watch it. I can't watch it.
You got to get over all that superstition.
I'm sorry. It's ingrained now. 45 seconds to go. I finally said, you know, it's 49-49. I really have no say in the outcome of this. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to watch. And then Alabama missed the field goal. I'm like, we got 15 seconds to go. We got 2 timeouts to go. We still got a shot.
Let me say this before you go any further, number of coaches prior to the one we have now, what would we have done with it with 15 seconds? We'd have took a knee, and we played for overtime, and maybe won, maybe not, So I'm going to give a lot of credit for what he knew that in 15 seconds, I'm going to march this thing downfield.
Yeah.
And what would we have done in the past? We'd have gave up.
Of course we would. We would have taken a knee, and that would have been it. We would have thrown a bubble screen.
3 times?
Yeah, 3 times. And, but yeah, when Hooker completed that first pass, I'm like, Keaton caught it, and I'm like, okay, we got 9 seconds here. One more pass, we might be in field goal position. And then Brew McCory makes this incredible catch on this incredible throw. Hooker had a guy in his face about to hit him. And he got it out and stuck it in there, and I went, oh, my God, we're about to win this football game.
And on another thing, you had a kicker who did not hit it the way he would like to in practice, but somewhere it caught flight by orange wings, and it flew through.
When it was coming down, I'm like, he missed it. I thought it went under the crossbar.
Yeah, he didn't hit it well at all.
And my heart just sunk. And then I saw the sheriff guy, the security guard, somebody
grabbing that Vols thing,
jumping, and
you see how fast they got that padding off that. They knew what was fixing to happen.
Of course, they knew what was fixing to happen. And
we can't get a Vols one in the next week.
It took me 30 minutes to actually celebrate the win because, and I'll be perfectly honest with you,
because you didn't think it was right.
No, I dropped to my knees and cried like a baby. You can ask my wife. I sobbed as hard as I've cried in a long time.
And I don't want to be the one to bring any negativity to this whole thing, but I'm going to bust your butt on something that still bothers me to this day.
Okay.
You have been a Tennessee fan tried and true for most of our lives, as long as I can remember.
Yep.
And for a big part of that life,
where are you going with this,
for a
Rusty?
big part of that life, you were also a howling mad Atlanta Braves fan at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, where are you going?
And you just turned your back on them.
Is that's factual?
Yes.
You're owning up to that, Scott?
I am a hypocrite, and I will gladly say it.
I love you, and I'm just messing with you. But
the Braves were messing with my damn mental health.
They were.
Every October, I was putting everything I had into that team, only to get disappointed, and then I'm like, I just can't do this anymore.
So you're telling me that the Tennessee Vols in the last 10 to 12 years have not disappointed you?
He can only focus on one bad thing at a time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
there's only so much a man can
only
take.
One October disappointment at a time.
I mean, my wife asked me the other day, she goes, how does Scott stay a Tennessee fan and give up on the Braves? And I was like, hey,
I had to make a choice.
I will tell you.
I had to make a choice.
Let me say.
I was a Tennessee fan before I was a Braves fan.
One quick point,
right.
and I have a brain trust of football coaches that I talk to on a regular basis, and I asked them the other day. I said, "Okay, tell me why, with Alabama where they were, they throw an incomplete pass on 3rd down, and then miss the field goal on 4th down, right?
Yeah.
Okay. At that point in the game, why would you not take the chance and kick the field goal on 3rd down, knowing that if you missed it, you could kick it again on 4th?
Well, and the kid was obviously had the leg of 51 yards.
Right. I mean,
he just.
I'm just playing devil's advocate, looking at that, going, is a 3 or 4 more yard completion going to do you that much good, other than maybe get you over to the other hash, something like that? I'm like, why would you not just take the chance and kick it twice? And so I asked the coaches at school. I said, hey, what would you have done in that situation? And I will tell you, one of them told me the very same thing I just said. You wouldn't have gone wrong by kicking it on 3rd.
No.
He's like, at least the kid knew what he was going to have to deal with. He said if he misses a little bit, he knows how to compensate on the second one, and he'll probably drill it home. And I'm like, do you honestly think
that... Yeah, but you don't get a second field goal try if you miss on 3rd down, do we? Okay.
Yes. It's not a completed pass or anything like that. It's an attempt. The only time that you get it, the only time it turns over on downs is on I'm pretty sure on 4th, because I've heard them talk about it before. Because on 4th down, it's a change of possession. I'll look it up.
I thought field goal tried. That was it.
I'm gonna wait for Google because
is kicking a field goal on 3rd down considered a 3rd down conversion like a touchdown is? No, because if a kicker misses the attempt, it is then okay. Yeah, no, you're right, Scott. I'm wrong. Yeah. It is then a change of possession.
So that brain trusted football coaching you're listening to.
I'm not gonna identify.
Please don't identify
I'm
any
not
of them.
Identify anybody, but
Dr. Pepper was making them dizzy.
That's right.
Oh,
But nobody's thrown that curveball at me in a while, so I wasn't going to answer.
Well, I heard him say, I'm like, you can't kick back to back.
I don't know where I heard that, but I heard them talking about
Now,
it.
if you miss it and there's like a penalty,
Yeah.
you get it. You get another shot at it. So if it was like a defensive penalty, yeah. But no, if you miss it, you're done with your possession. Sorry, you messed up. But water under the bridge now.
Well, hey,
along with the goalpost.
At least two of the three of us sitting at this sports table are extremely happy with last weekend.
I could care less.
There's one that he was not contented as we are, but I
didn't have a dog in that fight. I like to watch a good ball game, and that was a good ball game.
It
was a great ball game.
I watched a lot of that game we were in Helen, Georgia at Oktoberfest, and I watched a lot of that game sitting out on the deck, watching it through the window with a cold beer in my hand, listening to everybody else inside the house yelling, screaming, hoot, and holler like a bunch of banshees.
Well, then you had your story.
I sat out there where it was nice and quiet, and
you had your story.
I knew when something had happened because everybody went crazy. But I mean, you can't say. I mean, look, that's a hell of a ball game. Any way you want to look at it.
They got cable in Helen, by the way.
Barely. There were, but you think about the fact that there were
running his legs off trying to keep up with it.
Think about how many kids that I teach in school, 15, 16-year-old kids, whose parents are Tennessee fans, and had the first person that comes to mind. First person that comes to mind for me is young Graydon Johnson, second-string quarterback for LFO. His dad, Mike, longtime Tennessee fan.
Did you see the video?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Son's never seen him.
Son never seen him beat Alabama.
He's never seen him.
Did you see where they are? That Smokey's retiring this year, and he had never.
Yeah.
He had never seen it. I think he's been with it 12, 13 years. Mm-hmm. They're retiring Smokey for another Smokey.
Right.
But he had never witnessed it.
Yeah. A lot of just a lot of smiling.
Well, a lot of there's over 100,000 people taking off with goalposts that hadn't seen it in a while.
Have you seen the crowdsource funding page for the new goalpost?
I know it was up to 90.
Oh, it was, last I heard, I thought it was higher than that. I thought it was up
ago.
over 100 or something. I thought it was.
Get another player with that kind of money because they're we don't need 90, but we'll take the other 80 and get us a player.
Look, I don't buy that. That's what they need to have the goalpost. Those things are not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. I think this is just kind of a marketing scheme.
Just a kitty. Or just got a kitty of money for.
Let's talk some high school football now because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Do you want to start with the new classifications?
You know what? All I want to say is, Scott. You know something that I looked at on the new classifications for Tennessee now,
and that's on our Facebook page. If you want to go, there's a link.
And you go there and you can get a link and you can see this. I was really, as I combed down through, especially 6A, and I talked to you about. You know, I think it's Collierville that's sitting out there with 2,900 students, biggest school in the state, and I think two of them's out there actually. And then you got schools that somewhere just barely over 1,600 fall into that.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother 3A school or 4A school sitting out there inside that same school. So, and I know that You've had that discussion where people gripe about we got 200 students in 1A and we're playing 400 students. I understand that too, but that's a really big disparity there.
It is. It is a big disparity. But if you start adding more classifications and people in Georgia tell you the same thing, you're starting to water it down.
Well, I agree with that too. I don't know if you might be able to spread that out. I even noticed there where Bradley County, Cleveland High School's got a bigger enrollment than Bradley County. Yeah,
that surprised me. I was scrolling down, down the list, going from the lowest enrollment to the highest, and I thought, did I pass Cleveland? No, Cleveland's got a higher enrollment than.
And one thing I also noticed was Chattanooga Central falling back to 3A.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, I'm just gonna run this down, and this is I just put the football. Because football is going to be 6 different classes. Now, they tried to make them as even as possible, and I think Class 2A had the most at 51, and then a couple of them had 51 or 50, and then one of them had like 49. So they got it almost exactly, Now, I'm sure there'll be an appeals process like there is in Georgia to play up or to play down. Or
how often does that work in the state of Georgia? How often? 10%?
No, probably 40 to 50% of the time. It depends on the school, really.
Is it mostly over travel?
Yeah, travel and we're in an isolated area and we're going to have to go because a couple of years back, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more, Ridgeland and Southeast Whitfield were in danger of going to 5A, but they were going to be looking at playing in a region I think had Kell and some of these other schools at the time, and they're like, hey, come on. Bremen's a perfect example. Bremen should have been able to just been left alone in 2A. They'd been perfect in 2A. They were down there with Haralson County, and they'd be down there with Heard County and Temple and those schools they're used to playing anyway. But instead, because they're a city school, they got hit by that,
factoring.
Yeah, that 3.0 multiplier, so they bump them up into a region
It
where
makes them
they
run
were going
around.
to they were going to be classified in a region with Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek, Carver, Atlanta, and Douglas, and they're like, okay, first of all, forget the fact that 3 of those 4 teams, were in the state semifinals last year, and 2 of them played for a state title. We're going to have to drive through Atlanta traffic on a Friday to get to a game. We're going to have to leave at noon.
That's a strong argument.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that when we're going on vacation. Why would
Right.
they want to do that?
So they didn't know what to do with them, so they petitioned to play up in 6A, which people in 6A weren't happy about it because they're like, now we got to drive, 120 miles one way to get to a region game.
So how'd they settle on 4?
How they do what now?
Well, Bremen, didn't they? They ended up being up here.
Yeah,
on 3.
yeah. They petitioned, and the state voted, and the executive committee said, "Yep, we're gonna move you up." So anyway,
Well, if they had
That's
to,
where they
if they had to talk about their Friday afternoon travels, do we want to run through the Atlanta Metro, or do we want to roll up 27? Okay, it's not a hard
some
pick.
of these regions, I'll be honest with you, they have to drive from the eastern part of the South Georgia, the eastern part to the western part is like one region, or it was. So I mean, there's a bunch of things. They've let some
Nothing's
teams
perfect.
play up in classifications just because everybody else in their county is in that classification, or let them play down. So it just depends on a number of different factors. But here's the way it shakes out right now. Now, like I said, you can petition, I believe, to move up or to move down, and then once they finalize, if it's like Georgia, once they finalize classifications, then they'll let you move from this region to that region, and whatnot. It looks like 1A. The local teams around here are going to stay the local teams around here. Copper Basin, Lookout Valley, South Pittsburgh, Sale Creek, Whitwell. The only one that could be adding is Chattanooga Prep, who just started about a year or 2 ago. Depends on if they do decide to play a region schedule moving forward. I think they eventually will. So that could be added. It could be in a 6-team region, which will be good. Get some more competition in there. 2A is going to be Polk County, Tellico Plains, Bledsoe, and Marion. That's the only 4 schools in our area that are designated as 2A schools because Meigs County and Tyner are now 3A schools. Or they will be 3A schools starting next year if there's no appeals and if there's no shuffling around. So Meigs and Tyner are going to go back up, I guess, to 3A. Sweetwater, Grundy County, Brainerd, Sequatchie, McMinn Central, and Chattanooga Central, who you mentioned, is going to be dropping down from 4A. So 3A will have the most teams in it. Signal is going to be moving up from 3A to 4A. They'll be there with Sequoia, Red Bank, Hickson, Eastridge, Soddy Daisy. And I put Cumberland County in there because they're close enough they could possibly make that part of that region. I don't know if they will. They may stick them in another region, but they're close enough to the coverage area that they're going to be 4A. 5A, Ottawa, McMinn, Walker Valley, Howard, Ray County, which is the 5 that we've normally had, except East Hamilton is now going to be 5A. And East Hamilton actually has a few more students, like 2 or 3 more, than Ottawa does at this point. So East Hamilton looks like they're going to be moving up to a 5A, and then Bradley and Cleveland are the only ones at 6A. So... And then baseball is going to be different, and there's only, I think, 3 classifications for it, or 4 for basketball, or something like that. I mean, it's going to be different classifications and whatever, but for football, that's what we're looking at.
Well, and I think you said something to me a few weeks back, or at least somebody did, that East Ham had become the largest enrolled school in Chattanooga. And at one time, I think Ottawa and Saudi Daisy owned those pairings, but times have changed.
Actually, I think Howard is the most,
Howard?
If I looked right, Howard has about 1,500 students. And East Ham's about 1245. Ottawa's about 1245, something like that. Howard's getting close to 6A.
I don't know if they got a plan over there or not, but they need to be thinking of one.
After the show, I'll talk to both of you because I had an idea about something. I don't know if we'll do it or not, but I thought just something I was thinking about the other day.
Because I'm sure Howard's not happy with where that's going.
Probably not. They were 3A here just
and
not
went
too long
2A not too far back in some other class.
Let's just run down the schedule, and then we're going to run down the playoffs, the scenarios. Because I stayed up pretty late working on these last night, so I hope I can read my writing. But here's the games for Thursday night and Friday night. We do have some Thursday games in Georgia, but all these are on Friday. Tyner at Alcoa.
Big ball game. Good looking Tyner club too now. Saw them in person last week.
3 touchdowns all they've allowed all year?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now I think they'll have a hard time keeping Alcoa off the scoreboard. But listen, this team last year, me and Nathan watched them at a Marion County game at Marion County, and they didn't play well, and they got beat. And I thought they didn't show us their best effort. They went up to Meggs, who eventually won the region last year, and it was a 1-point affair. But most of this Tyner team did not graduate. It's a good-looking, physical, healthy football team, and you notice it real quick when you get the eyeball test. There's a lot of athletes spread all the way across the field, and they have that interior line play that accompanies the talent out there on the edge, and got a quarterback in Mr. Jackson who he's 6'5", 215. He does look the part.
Athlete. I know they're ranked number 1 almost unanimously in the poll right now. Is the jury still kind of out a little bit just because they really haven't been tested this year?
They haven't been tested, and one of the biggest tests
all due respect to anybody else on their schedule.
Well, let me say this. I learned something in talking to the Meigs County coaches that we're so friendly with, that I thought that test might be the Trousdale team that's giving everybody else a test if you're going to get to the state. Yes,
Goose egg.
And they're on hard times themselves this year.
Trousdale County. Rusty, I don't know if you knew this. Trousdale County is 0-8.
Holy crap!
I mean, that's just something that don't happen for them. So
when's the last time they had a major losing season?
So sometimes the stars, and we know this when we win state championships. Sometimes the stars have to align, and there may be a star right there that has aligned.
Tyner is the best chance we have for a public school.
Yes.
In our entire coverage area.
Yes.
To win a state championship.
They are. They're that school, and whether you get offended by that or not, that's who they are. No matter what happens against Alcoa, but if they can keep it close with Alcoa, I hope that's the type of game that they're involved in, so that they do get one of those games on their schedule. Yeah. That was a dogfight for them.
Yeah, because they're probably going to need that.
So they're going to be exposed to that.
Yeah, number 1 in 2A versus number 1 in 3A. It's on the road. Was it?
And Alcoa
have they played at Alcoa since we were up there to watch that one the last time?
So. Possibly not. And that was a game
Tyner played really well that night, but they turned the ball over 4 times and it beat by 4 touchdowns. But we'll see what happens. Notre Dame at CAK, Republic at Chattanooga Christian, Giles County at Cleveland. The North Georgia Falcons, who I believe might be a homeschool-based team, is supposed to be playing at Copper Basin. That's what's showing on the schedule. Of course, last week Copper Basin was supposed to be playing somebody, and it turns out they had canceled it weeks before. We didn't know anything about it because I spent 2 hours looking for something on that game, only to find out later that the game had been canceled 3 months ago. So if that's not the case, somebody please let us know that Copper Basin will or will not be playing this team this week. The game you guys are going to be at, Red Bank and East Hamilton, incredibly huge.
Yeah, for all the marbles in that region, and we covered that game last year. I've seen both teams. What I would say right at this point in time, based on what I've seen, it should be a very, very competitive, close game. That's what I believe I'll witness.
Red Bank coming off of. I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised they lost to Fayetteville because Fayetteville's a really good team, even though they're a little bit lower classification. But 38-2,
didn't score any points. Also, keep in mind, in a Ray County affair, they scored one touchdown by a special team. So that may be something that they need to get better at.
Another big game for both teams, and we'll talk about this here in a minute. Really, all these games in Region 3-4 are huge this week. Central to East Ridge is big. Saudi and Hickson is big. Silverdale Baptist at Grace Academy. Silverdale still has designs on moving up in the standings. They need to win that one this week.
They're playing our Grace Academy?
No, Knoxville Grace.
Oh, thank you.
Knoxville Grace. Boyd Buchanan. Yeah, I've been not good. Boyd Buchanan at Knoxville Webb. Another enormous game in Division II, Class 2A. McMinn County at Loudoun's a big game. Signal is playing Marion. It's kind of funny. We've got a bunch of games that either mean a whole lot or mean absolutely nothing this week. Signal at Marion County. West Toronto Prep out of Canada comes down to Macaulay. I guess it's Macaulay's annual
recruiting
Grey Cup against the team from
might just be a recruiting trip too.
Could be.
Macaulay's annual Grey Cup.
Well, what else would you call it?
Hold on, Rusty. Macaulay will feed them. They might even house them.
I was going to say,
they might take them to the movies the night before. And then we're going to pick your best 6 players and invite them to come back next year.
We're going to see if they'd like to be Blue Tornado next year.
Some defections all of a sudden. Where
do all these Canadians come from?
Rockwood at McMinn Central. Yeah, if you see poutine on the menu at Macaulay this week, you'll probably know why. Rockwood at McMinn Central. Sequoia is at Oneida. Brainerd at Ooltewah. Lookout Valley at Polk County. Bradley Central at Ray County. Cosby comes down to Sale Creek. Whitwell in Sequatchie County. Tellico Plains at Sweetwater. Upperman at Lookout Valley. And then 2 games are going to be over in the Central Time Zone. Bledsoe County at Monterey. And, here's one that might be of some interest to some people. Baylor at MBA.
Big. And not only big for this town. That one bounces from one end of the state to the other, what it means.
If Baylor wins that game, they may not have to go back to MBA for another game in the playoffs. So that's pretty big.
I also think that it sets up the bracket that Macaulay would stay on the other side, so we could potentially see a state championship game between the two.
Yep. In Georgia, start with the Thursday games. Central of Carrollton is playing at Southeast Whitfield. That will be a Thursday night. LFO at Lafayette. I'll be there tomorrow night for that one. And Gordon Central at Rockmart is on a Thursday. And the reason they're having to move them is pretty much because of the officials.
And hey guys, we talked about that a year ago, didn't we? Mm-hmm. That we would start to see more and more Thursdays have to be participated on due to officials, and it's here. It's here.
Well, we've been moving in that direction for a while.
Yeah.
The rest of the games scheduled for Georgia on Friday include Rome at River Ridge, Dalton at Calhoun, and we'll talk about it in a second, but Dalton's got a chance to take control of the region. A region with Calhoun and Cartersville. Dalton's in first place right now. Woodland at Cartersville. Hiram's at Cass. Cedartown at Sonoraville. The only 2 teams in 7-4A.
And let me ask you about Hiram. Is Hiram good this year? Have I seen some scores and wins that I didn't expect them to be getting?
Yeah, like beating Calhoun
a
week or so ago.
I mean, I can remember them back in the early 2000s. They had talent.
They did.
They weren't talentless.
They've got an offense that can score some points. They're just not consistent. The defense will give up some, but the offense seems like every 2 out of 3 games
I've seen them win some games. I thought, that's
not bad.
Very good.
Cedartown at Sonoraville. We'll see how good Sonoraville is. Like I said, they're 2-0 in the region, but they have yet to play a team like Cedartown. Heritage at Northwest Whitfield. Huge game for both teams. That game last year, Heritage took the lead with like 15 seconds to go on a touchdown, and Northwest scored like 5 seconds later on a pass and ended up winning that ball game. Gordon Lee at Adairsville. Bremen at Kahula Creek. Loser of that game is probably going on the road for the first round of the playoffs.
Scott, let me ask you this. I mean, I think in the beginning you said that you thought most people had picked Adairsville because of what was coming back.
Yeah.
Scott, they're not even playing close games in that region.
The projections came out today. Lauren Maxwell down in Georgia, who does the projections, he put out the projections for Class 3A. He's got Adairsville playing in the semifinals for the first time since 1973. They've got a great draw if things shake out.
Well, I mean, they just wore out everybody they played in the region. So
they have. It really haven't had. Those first 2 games, they played 2 really, really good offenses. They won one, they lost one, and nobody's really challenged them since. We mentioned LFO Lafayette, Ringo at Ridgeland, Fannin County at Murray County, North Murray at Model, which suddenly is a huge game, Darlington at Armurchie, Dade County at Chattooga, Tryon at Pepperell, and Christian Heritage at CHS, not CCS.
Spit it out, man.
Let's start this whole show over. We'll do better. Christian Heritage at Asheville Christian, and that is in North Carolina. So they'll be heading up I-40 over the mountains up there. So let's just talk about what's going to happen here in the playoffs. And again, I'm assuming head-to-head is the tiebreaker in most of these situations. If it's between 2 teams, if it's between 3 teams, I don't know what these tiebreakers are for these regions. But the way I figure it right now, South Pittsburgh's already won the region. They're 3-0. Whitwell, I think, is 3-1. And even if South Pittsburgh, they've already beaten already beaten Whitwell. Even if they were to somehow lose to Copper Basin, which they won't. But if they were, they would be 3-1. They'd have the tiebreaker over Whitwell. So the way I've got it figured, South Pittsburgh is 1, Whitwell is 2. It basically comes down to Lookout Valley versus Sail Creek next Friday night, the 28th. Copper Basin has lost too many. They can't pass anybody else in the standings. So it's going to be Lookout Valley and Sail Creek, who's 3 and who's 4. And for, like I said, Lookout Valley team that won 3 games combined in the last 3 years. They have a chance to finish 3rd.
And one of their biggest issues has always been just numbers out there, just having enough kids to play and practice. You something about that South Pittsburgh team. We know that they haven't won a state championship every year, but Scott, besides that Whitwell year winning the region, how many region championships the Southeast got lined up out there? All of them?
More than I can count.
Yeah, I was going to say.
All of them, except for that one year?
Yeah, except for the year Whitwell won it. Region 3, 2A. Tyner, by my count, has already won the region. They're 4-0. Nobody can pass them. There aren't enough games left, and they own the tiebreaker over everybody. The only other thing we know is Tellico Plains will not make the playoffs. Right now, Meigs, Bledsoe, Polk, and Marion are all 2-2. We got 4 teams fighting for 3 playoff spots. And next week, Meigs plays Marion and Polk plays Bledsoe.
Yeah, lots decided there. And I think Bledsoe has also beat Meigs. So Meigs has got 2 losses, too. Yeah. So they may have a hard time without help even being a 2 seed.
Like I said, there's 4 teams right now all at 2-2. So there's still a whole lot going to be played out here the next couple of weeks. Region 3, 3A. Sweetwater is 4-0, McMinn Central is 3-1, and Loudon is 2-2. Now, here's what I have to figure out. If McMinn Central beats Loudon on Friday night, which is, not going to be easy, but if they can, Sweetwater will play McMinn Central next Friday, and that'll be for the region championship.
Okay. Probably won't get any of our coverage, but okay. I'll agree with you.
Then, like I said, you still got Kingston at 1-3, Signal at 1-3, and Brainerd at 1-3. So you got three
Nobody
teams,
wants that. Nobody wants it.
You got still 3 teams still fighting, and it's 3 really good teams.
They're just passing it around.
Brainerd's had a good season. Signal is a few plays from probably winning 7 or 8 ball games at this point. So there's still lots of football to be played the last couple weeks of the season. Region 4, 3A. Looks like Giles has already won the region. Sequatchie County is going to be second. Grundy County can get in the playoffs if they beat Community next Friday night. Grundy would be the number 4 seed. Region 3, 4A. We talked about it earlier. You're going to be at that game Friday. Red Bank, East Hamilton, both 4-0. Red Bank still has to play Sequoia. East Hamilton still has to play Hickson. But most likely, this is going to determine number 1.
Most likely. And again, I've seen both teams. And I really would be surprised if it's not a very, very close competitive ballgame.
We know Sequoia at this point is not going to make the playoffs. You got Central at 3-2. They still have to play East Ridge. Hickson sitting in the 4th spot right now, 2-2. They've still got Saudi Daisy, and they still got East Hamilton. And then you got Saudi and East Ridge both at 1-3. Either one of those two lose this week, they're probably done. You win, you still got a chance.
Been a while since Hickson got in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it has. So
go Wildcats.
We'll see what happens. Like I said, broken record, but a lot of football still to be played and not much determined yet. Region 4, 5A, it's pretty much set already. McMinn County will be your 1 seed, Walker Valley 2, Ray County 3, Ooltewah 4. Howard is going to miss the playoffs. Region 2 in 6A. Maryville, Bearden, and Farragut all 3-1, but Maryville beat both Bearden and Farragut. So if Maryville wins out, Maryville is going to win the region. Bradley is sitting there in the 4th spot at 2-2.
But still got Maryville to play.
Still has Maryville to play. Cleveland's at 1-3, but Bradley owns the tiebreaker over Cleveland. So that's basically a 2-game lead. Basically, if Bradley loses to Maryville and Cleveland beats Hardin Valley, who hasn't won a game, they're both going to finish at 2-3.
With the tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker is going to go.
And we
Bradley.
Covered that game. That was a touchdown difference.
Yeah.
Or so less. Maybe less.
It looks like Bradley's probably going to get to hang on to the 4 spot, even if they were to lose to Maryville. But we'll see what happens. Now, the private schools, Division 2, Class 2A East, the top 5 teams get in. Chattanooga Christians at 5-0, Knox Webb's at 4-0. Then tied for 3rd, you got Boyd, Silverdale, and Knoxville Grace all at 2-2.
Pretty competitive division there, really.
And the big games here at the end. Knox Webb is playing Boyd on Friday. Knox Webb is playing CCS next week. Silverdale's playing Knox Grace this week, and Boyd's playing Grace next week. So,
a lot to be determined.
Yeah, absolutely, and could come down to Knox Webb and Chattanooga Christian for the region championship. And then we mentioned 3A. Baylor, MBA are both 3-0. They play on Friday. The winners probably taking the region. Pope John Paul II and Macaulay, they play next Friday night. They're both tied for 3rd at this point. Knoxville Catholic 5th, Father Ryan 6th, but all 6 of those teams will make the playoffs the way the brackets are set up. So it just comes down to
who goes where and who plays first.
Yeah. As far as Georgia goes, we mentioned Dalton 3-0 and alone at the top is 7-5A at this point. Calhoun and Cartersville are tied at 2-1, although Calhoun has the tiebreaker over Cartersville.
And let me say this about Dalton. Scott, about Dalton. They don't want to be in that 5A thing, and they've got to straighten out their numbers if they can, because they want to get in that lower classification, because they've been playing a little bit out of their circle of what they used to play.
Well, they're down from what they were. They were 6A. Now down to 5A.
Well, I think they want to come even further.
Tyson Greenway is carrying that team on his legs right now. I mean, he's running for 200, 300 yards just about every game, but they got away. They beat Cass last week, I think, on a late field goal. And Hiram and Cass are sitting there both at 1 and 2, and they play each other on Friday. Those are going to be two big ball games to watch this week. 7-4A, we talked a minute ago. Cedartown, Sonoraville, both 2-0. They play on Friday. Heritage at Northwest, they're both 1-1. They play each other on Friday. And then Central and Southeast Whitfield, both 0-2, play each other Thursday night, tomorrow night. So, if Heritage wins, assuming Cedartown doesn't stub its toe once or twice down the stretch, and I don't see that they are, they're just that good. If Heritage wins out, and they beat Northwest,
they can be the 2 seed.
And they beat Sonoraville, and they beat Central.
And what's big about that, Scott, is staying at home.
Absolutely.
And almost maybe giving you a chance to stay at home 2 weeks if you can win there.
And Sonoraville's pretty much in the same boat. If Sonoraville wins out, even if they were to lose to Cedartown on Friday, if they win the rest of theirs, they're going to finish second. And that's a program that moved up from 3A this past year. So that'd be big for Sonoraville. 6-3A. Adairsville just looks like a team that's
them and the rest of it.
And that's the position. That's the only position you want to be in Region 6 AAA this year.
Because
Region 6 matches up with Region 5.
And who are they?
That would be 3-time defending champion Cedar Grove, or 2-time, one or the other.
And Booker T was 5 times. So
Carver of Atlanta, who, by the way, played Cedar Grove for the state title last year. 2 region opponents met. And Carver of Atlanta right now is projected as the number 3 seed because Sandy Creek beat them last week.
Just a rich
Sandy Creek's
region to tackle.
All 3 of those teams are ranked in the top 5.
But we've said this for years, many times, and it's at best 50-50 that you're not going to catch one of those powerhouse regions from this region up here facing those. So you're right. Being 1 is where you need to be.
And that's just the way the brackets were drawn up this year. They rotate.
They rotate.
5, 6, 7,
but there's
and
so
8.
many good ones down there. It's not like you're.
Yeah.
And I wish Tennessee would do that. I really do. I wish Tennessee would get out of their way of just designating who we're always going to see.
Yeah. You pretty much can guess the playoffs.
You can start that in August.
Yeah. What they do in Georgia is they take regions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then they take regions 5, 6, 7, and 8, and they rotate them in the first round every year, and they rotate the other one. So, Region 5 versus Region 6. Next year will be 5 versus 7. Next year will be 5 versus 8.
And answer me, how often does it really require, say, the North Georgia having to drive on the other side of Atlanta?
Not till the quarterfinals.
That's right. It doesn't happen early.
No.
They divide
the other side of Atlanta, because that region, like Region 7 over there with Stevens County and that group, but you really don't have to go through Atlanta. You kind of got to skirt the top of it or whatever. But you're not going to see, Atlanta down. You're not going to have to travel until the quarterfinals.
So they control the travel somewhat.
Yeah, it is. Now, Ringgold, Kahula Creek, and Bremen are all tied at 3-1. The thing to note here is Ringgold has already beaten Bremen, and they beat Kahula Creek last
year. So they got tiebreakers.
So Ringgold's in the catbird seat right now because if they hang on, they win their last 3.
What do they got?
They're going to finish second. They've got Ridgeland this week, LFO next week, and then finish with Gordon Lee. 3 games.
They're favored in all 3.
They'll be favored in all 3. It doesn't mean they're going to win them all.
No, but they're favored.
But
Vegas says they're favored.
Yeah. If they win out,
that's Ross Vegas, by the way.
Ringo's going to be the number 2 seed, probably hosting Carver of Atlanta. Although it's not as strong a Carver team as it was last year because their big running back graduated, but still a very, very good team. I think they're ranked 5th in the state.
Because 6 guys are playing in the SEC.
Yeah, probably. Now, let's say Kahula Creek and Bremen play this week.
So that eliminates somebody.
Yeah, somebody is probably going to be either 3rd or 4th. Really, the only team that still has a realistic shot of getting in the playoffs out of the other 4 in that region is Gordon Lee. They're 2-2. They're going to have to win out.
They have to win out.
And they've got games left against Ridgeland and Ringgold.
And they can't call those 8th graders up.
And Adairsville. And
you haven't congratulated those 8th graders either.
I was going to get to that. But since we're here, we've got the clips on the Facebook page. The North Georgia Athletic Conference, the middle school championship game yesterday. Gordon Lee finishes off a 9-0 season, beats Ringgold 20-14, and they were by far the best two teams in the league this year. They had played at the start of the year. I think second game of the year, it was 18-18 at halftime. Gordon Lee ended up winning, I think, 34-18. And then those two teams pretty much
won out.
Yeah, won out. Ringgold had one close game there towards the end of the season with Heritage. I think it was 20-12. They played Heritage again in the playoffs and beat them 52-22. So these two teams, like I said, were in my eyes the best two teams in that league all year. It came down yesterday, 20-14. We got 2 minutes to go. Ringgold's got the ball inside the 10-yard line. They get it down to the 1 on third down. They got hit for I think it was a false start penalty, backed them up 6 yards. Looked like they were going to try a halfback pass, and then it was like not a fumble. He kind of bobbled it, and they couldn't get the throw off and got thrown for a loss. 4th and goal from the 13, I think 40 seconds left, and Gordon Lee's linebacker comes flying in and gets a sack on 4th down to seal it. So
he got that linebacker got a name? He does. I know he's got a name.
Watson.
Okay. Dr. Watson.
It's on our page. I'm sorry I don't know all my middle school rosters. I think it's Eli Watson. I think it's Eli Watson.
Okay. All right,
I hope it's Eli Watson. Look, I apologize if it's not Eli.
If it's not, it's Peyton Watson. So
but Gordon Lee's going to, pretty much Gordon Lee's going to have to beat Adairsville.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, nobody's even playing that team close in this region.
Yeah, so it's going to be a real tall order. LFO, Lafayette, and Ridgeland, they more or less have to win out and hope a few people lose down the stretch. I don't even know if they can get in if that happens, but one more loss for either one of those teams, and they're going to be out. LFO's playing Lafayette Thursday. Somebody's going to be done. Lafayette Ridgeland, I think, play the last game of the season. So it looks like it's going to be Adairsville, Ringgold, Kahula Creek, and Bremen.
And here we are. We start talking football back in June when it rolls into the 7-on-7s, and then we get into the Jamboree, and then it's week 1, and here we are talking playoffs.
Yeah. 7AA Rockmart is 3-0. I don't know if anybody's going to beat Rockmart. They're a good football team. Maybe not as good as last year, but still a good football team. Model and North Murray are both 3-1, and they're playing Friday night. And then Fannin is 2-1, but Fannin already has a tiebreaker over North Murray, and they might even have one. I'm not sure if they played Model yet or not, but Fannin County scored 68 on North Murray last Friday night.
Is that legal?
I don't know. But Fannin,
is it legal?
Fannin could
Who's running the clock over there?
Fannin could eventually move up to number 2 in that region, and I think the Model North Murray loser on Friday night might end up as the 4th seed. So we'll keep an eye on that. 7 Single A Division 1. Darlington is 4-0. Tryon is 3-0. Those two play on November 4th, final game of the year. Tryon and Pepperell play this Friday night. Pepperell's 2-1 in the region and sitting in the 3rd spot. Dade and Armurchie are both 1-2. They play on November 4th. Coosa is hanging on in 6th, and Chattooga, who's just really young this year, they're 0-4. They're not going to make the playoffs, but you still got about 6 teams coming down there. And then Division 2, 7A, I know we don't talk about them too much. There's only 3 teams in the region, so all 3 are guaranteed to make the playoffs. And then somebody, I think the Region 8 champion's getting a bye in the first round. Bowden's 1-0. Bowden's projected, like I said, the Maxwell projections, they've got Bowden actually winning state this year. If you haven't heard of Robert McNeil, he's now being looked at by Georgia. He's a dual-threat quarterback. He probably won't play quarterback in college, but he's that good of an athlete. Christian Heritage is 0-1 right now. They play Mount Zion of Carroll next Friday night.
I thought that was big games, Bremen and Bowden.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah. It still is, and they played earlier this year, and I think Bowden won 35-0. And Bremen's.
Let me ask you about a school. I don't know if you said much.
So
about
that does resolve it.
How about a school, Darlington?
Yeah, we just mentioned them. They're 4-0. I think they're ranked 6th.
Okay.
In the state right now.
I mean, they're the closest thing to McCallie and Baylor, right?
Yeah.
Not quite as big in numbers, I don't think, but they have that
about
same
600-700.
They have that same world down there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember. I've told this story before, and this was 20 some odd years ago.
I heard it's pretty campus and all that.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And I remember when their athletic center opened, it was like $25 million facility or something like that.
Oh, way.
Well, and like I said, this was about 20 years ago, and I walked down there one day. I think Gordon Lee was playing volleyball. Might have been a region tournament game. And they've got these signs outside, and the school is having a fundraiser. And they're asking people to donate. They've got.
It's kind of hard to get a fundraiser, and you got a $25 million facility.
I was thinking that very same
You've seen
thing.
the sign.
Now you're going to start asking for money.
You've seen the sign.
By the way, we have a $25 million school, but we could use 25 more.
Well, you have the sign that has like the thermometer.
Yeah, selling
drawn,
donuts.
right, and they color it in, whatever. Now, granted, this is not a public school. This is a private school that gets boarding students from all over the country.
Clarify the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very...
But they're still asking for money.
They were asking for donations from alumni and
I've never
people
seen
like that.
McCallie and Baylor stand out there and ask for money.
Do you know what their goal was?
Probably 100,000.
Try 90 million.
Where were they at?
They were close.
Where were these buckets at?
And where is this school?
Rome.
Good
Darlington.
Lord.
Well, where are we putting all these buckets
It was
at?
90 million.
I mean, are we talking like... I mean, obviously, we're talking like CEO children's school kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they got...
Imagine that classroom you would have to
they got
stand
some
in.
fun.
Oh, my God. I mean...
Your projector and all that, you wouldn't have to do
I mean, if you got that kind of money, I mean... Hell, the golf team would have new bags and clubs every year.
There you go.
I mean...
And a few golfers.
And a few guys. Yeah, and a few. I guarantee you we'd have some golfers.
Of course, every year.
Seriously, $90 million.
So you remember that when
sure
Lakeview starts asking for money through the hallways.
I can't imagine as a public school. I mean, obviously, no, that's a private school, but still, I can't imagine putting that poster together and writing $90 million on it.
And feeling proud to ask for it.
I mean, we only have a $300 million school, but we could use 90 more.
That makes UT sound cheap, just trying to raise much money for goalposts.
Well, I mean, how many schools at the college level don't have 90 million, could use $90 million? That's just... That's insane.
Well, according to their website, the strong endowment enables the school to better serve its students. Darlington's endowment contributes over $1.2 million annually to the operating budget.
Golly.
To help keep faculty salaries competitive, tuition rates reasonable, and scholarships viable. So
okay, they don't need no money.
No.
Yeah, they got
Well, Scotty, take us home.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for another episode
of Phoenix City Sports.
We put the schedule is out on the Facebook page. If you want to take a look at that. I've been trying to update. I haven't gotten to check to see how Baylor was doing just yet. I know they were playing in the state winners bracket volleyball finals today. I do know East Hamilton's already won. Waiting to hear on Signal Mountain. We could have East Hamilton versus Signal tomorrow in the winners bracket final in state. Cleveland's already won. I think Cleveland's probably going to win state. But we'll see what happens with that. Like I said, we got a state tournament going on. Volleyball, softball, Tennessee, Georgia, football tomorrow night, football Friday night. Don't forget to join us tomorrow night around 11, give or take a few minutes, and then get the scoreboard up and running. And until then, this is Scott signing off for Rusty. For Rob, we'll see you guys Friday night.